Hello and welcome to another episode of our Brothers Creed podcast. We're talking about motivation, experiences, and we explore the world around us. We are the Thomas Brothers, and I'm Jared.
And I'm Ethan. And today we will be talking about the Credo, the foundational pillar of our personal creeds, the Credo of Readiness. Readiness can mean lots of different things, whether it's maybe preparedness for the apocalypse, maybe it's food storage, maybe it's knowledge, maybe it's a bug out bag, or maybe it is a first aid kit in the kitchen drawer. Readiness can be all different kinds of stuff. So Jared and I each have a story. We're going to talk about someone who exemplifies readiness in their life and talk a little bit about how we can apply it to our own personal creeds.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Most valuable commodity I know of is information.
And that, my friends, is called integrity. That's called courage. Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.
Either you're somebody or you're nobody.
You're not the devil. You're practice.
So when I think about readiness, like you said, I think about all the things. In fact, there's like a funny meme going around right now where it's not a meme, like a social media thing where these women like ask their husbands like, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And guys are like, I don't know, a couple times a week. And they're like, all these women are like, what? Like, what do you think about? And they're like, I don't know, just like the amazing aqueducts, or like how there was the greatest civilization that ever was, or like all these different things, and like how everything is derived from almost all the civilization and philosophy and justice and all of our rules of law are derived from the Romans. And like they're
like, I haven't thought about that since high school.
Yeah, all these women are just like, what? I don't understand. And so I thought that was kind of funny, and Chance sent me a video about that. And so I guess I'm not on that side of TikTok, and so I keep seeing these videos. And then I commented on one, and I was like, you know what? Really, if you want to be boggled, your mind boggled about what guys think about, ask a guy how often he thinks about the grid going down. And then me and this guy were like,
do I need a generator?
Yeah, and then I was like, me and this guy were going back and forth, and he was like, yes. He's like, how soon are my marshmallows going to go bad? He's like, how long does aspirin last? He's like, what is my, how long is my food storage going to last? And I'm like, yeah, seriously, like, how long can my propane tank last? Do I need to buy 9 jerry cans and fill them with gas? How long does gas last if I buy ethanol-free gas with gas?
If the power's out and I open the freezer and grab something and close it real quick, how many degrees is it going to drop before?
Exactly.
As a result to that.
It's like, what if the power doesn't just go out? What if there's an EMP? And then how do I, it's like all these things. So like,
then you get into researching Faraday cages.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, should I keep my phone in my Faraday cage? And it's like, if the crap is a fan, like, how valuable is my phone going to be? I really only have pictures on there anyway. It's like, if I don't have the internet. So it's like all this stuff I think about like on the way home from work, or just like when my mind is quiet, it's just like, how long is your propane going to last? So that's one aspect of readiness I thought was funny. But the part I want to talk to about today is actually something totally different than that. And it actually is from a long document that's about like nursing, and it's about how to educate. And there's this method called the PEEK, PEEK. And it talks about 4 types of readiness to learn. And so these are considerations. So I have kids. These are considerations that the instructor should pay attention to see if their pupil is ready to learn. And I thought this was very interesting as I'm trying to teach my kids, and I'm actually coaching a soccer team right now. And so it's interesting to like, well, I'm trying to teach them something, but they're not in the mindset to learn. Like I'm yelling at them on the field. I'm like, hey, come over here, do this. And I look back, and some of the kids standing there in just la la land, and I'm like, what's up? what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I was just, I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, pay attention. I'm talking to you.
Or they'll yell back, I know.
And then I yell back, if you knew, then why aren't you doing it? So I'm going to go through these. The first one, the P, so peak, P-E-K. The P is for physical readiness. And here's a couple bullet points under physical readiness that should be considered. Measures of ability, complexity of task, environmental effects, health status, and gender. Boys learn differently than girls. Health status. Is the kid sick? If he's sick on the soccer field, do you think he's going to want to be playing? Just last Saturday, the environmental effects. Jax, my son, he went and scored a goal. And he was like, yes! He was so excited. But then it started to drizzle, and he put his two little hands over his head, and he almost just like stood in one spot the rest of the time because he didn't want to get wet. And I was like, Jax, come on out. Let someone else play because they're not even playing. So the environmental effects, like, change everything. The next one is emotional readiness. So this is the PE. Emotional readiness, and a couple ones here. Anxiety level, support system. This is such an important one, support system. Some of these kids, they don't have support systems. They go to school and they haven't eaten breakfast because their parents didn't feed them. Their parents were up all last night fighting, or they don't have a dad, or they don't have a mom, and so they have no support system at home. This is why a lot of, I think, kids really fall behind this in their school system, especially you'll see a lot of this in inner cities where there's fatherless homes. Motivation is another one, emotional readiness. Risk-taking behavior, frame of mind, and developmental stage. I have to talk to my 9-year-old very differently from the way that I talk to my 5-year-old because there are different developmental stages. Well, I don't know if I would say that. Maybe I should talk to them differently, but sometimes I don't. It's hard.
Sometimes I'm just talking to the group of them at one time.
Sometimes I'm just talking and nobody's listening. The next E, is experiential readiness. So level of aspiration, past coping mechanisms, cultural background, locus of control, and orientation. So those are some different ones. And the last K, so P-E-E-K, is knowledge readiness. So what's their present knowledge base? It's hard to teach someone about calculus if they don't know algebra. So what's their present knowledge base? If you're a nurse and you're saying, hey, this is where you need to come into the arm and hit the vein, and they don't even know what a vein is, you're like, you got to start with that knowledge base. Cognitive ability, learning disabilities, and learning styles. So these are all like knowledge-based readiness. So if we can consider these factors, remember PEEK, that represent, and that is physical, emotional, experiential, and knowledge. Think about those things before you go to instruct someone, and if you can consider some of those items, then you'll probably be a better instructor, and you will not waste your time or the other person's time, and they'll actually learn better because you've adjusted your style. And that's how you get someone ready to learn.
Like that. The peak method.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are all great. I like the bullet points underneath them too. It's like things to consider within that specific area.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. That's something we can, even just take like a little litmus test in any type of situation of, kind of run through your head. Okay, I'm dealing with someone, whether it's my kid or whatever else, just, kind of take a little test of each one of those things and say, where is their headspace, or where are they at with each one of those things? Cool. Good advice. So my story about readiness is about a young man who had he had prepared to fulfill his life's mission. And so this is the story of one of the most, I guess, well-known stories in Greek mythology about Theseus and the Minotaur. So Theseus was known for his courage and readiness in the face of challenges. He was quick on his feet. And in this specific instance, he was very prepared and very ready. In his most famous adventure, which we'll talk about, was when he came face to face with a minotaur. So a minotaur is a monstrous creature with the body of a man, but the head of a bull. So body of a man, head of a bull. So it's got big old horns, but body of a man.
How would you keep your head up?
Yeah, I don't know. You got strong shoulder muscles or something. So this minotaur, he lived in a labyrinth that was created to basically capture, in capture him on the island of Crete. So this labyrinth was created by an artist to keep this minotaur at bay. And there's a couple different thoughts of what this labyrinth was actually like. Some people think that it was actually built into a cave, and so it was pitch black dark. The labyrinth, it's like a maze. It is described as a dark and confusing maze with many twists and turns. And then I'll add on to there with a carnivorous man-eating bull chasing after you. Right. So
that's funny that
the
bulls aren't carnivorous, though.
Yeah. Well, so
this one is.
So this was on the island of Crete. Right. So the Athenians were a different group of people. They had lost a historical battle to the people of Crete. And as a basically result of losing that battle, the Athenians were required to send a tribute every 9 years of 7 girls and 7 boys to the island of Crete. And basically they were a sacrifice to the Minotaur, and they would be put inside of the labyrinth, inside of the maze, and no one had ever escaped. And basically the Minotaur would go and would eat them and kill them and whatever else. So this punishment was imposed by the king of Crete. His name was King Minos. So Theseus was a young teenager in his early teens, and he was the son of King Aegeus, who was the king of Athens at the time. And Theseus, it came up to the 9 years where it was time for Athens to send their tribute of 7 boys and 7 girls. And Theseus actually volunteered to be one of the tributes, to go and to end with the mission of ending this cruel practice of sending these tributes every 9 years to Crete. Theseus had spent his whole life at this time training for this one specific mission. And he practiced physical fortitude, mental fortitude, and he studied and did everything he could to try to prepare himself for what was kind of an unknown. They knew that they got sent into a labyrinth with beast, but other than that, they didn't know. No one had ever returned. So upon arriving in Crete, Theseus met the King Minos, who's the king of Crete. He met his daughter, and his daughter immediately fell in love with Theseus. And so his daughter, she proposed something to Theseus. She said she handed him a ball of yarn whenever he went into the labyrinth, the maze. And she said, I'll hold this one side of the yarn on the outside of the door, and you unravel it as you go into the maze so that you can find your way back. So she gave him a ball of yarn, and then she gave him a sword, something that she kind of snuck into him. So he went into this. They opened the doors.
Seems like his plan was heavily dependent on schmoozing this girl.
Yeah, well, hey, you got to be ready.
He's ready for
whatever comes your way. So they go in. He's feeling through the dark, and he's letting out the string as he goes through. He gets to the point where eventually he hears the Minotaur and engages in this fierce battle with this Minotaur swinging his sword wildly because it's dark. He can't see anything, or it's very dimly lit. He can maybe see some shapes and movement. So he's swinging his sword around, trying to fight this massive monster. And he actually hits something really hard. So he hits something, and then the Minotaur shrieks and actually knocks him down and knocks the sword out of his hand, which he loses the sword. He's feeling around on the ground. He can't find anything. He can start to hear the Minotaur start to charge, and it's breathing as it's running towards him. He's feeling around on the ground, and he feels something hard and sharp and realizes, or pointy, let's say, and he realizes that when he was swinging his sword around, he had hit one of the horns of the bull, of the Minotaur, and had cut it off. And so right at the last second, as he could feel the breath of the Minotaur coming at him, he held it up and stuck it right through the heart and killed the beast as it fell on him.
With its own horn.
With its own horn.
Brutal.
So previous to this engagement, when Theseus arrived to the island of Crete, the king knew that this was the son of the king of Athens, and he was giving him a hard time. And Theseus had struck a deal with the king, and he said, if I kill this beast, will you basically end this tribute? And the king agreed, thinking that there's no way that this little twerp kid will kill this beast.
Mm-hmm.
So Theseus' strength and his bravery, he managed to defeat and emerge victorious after he followed the trail of yarn back to the door to be able to get out. Him and all of the rest of the Athenian youth, as well as the king's daughter, returned to Athens victorious. So
nice.
There's a whole second half to the story that's kind of super depressing, so we won't even get into that. Maybe at a later time. But this example really, to me, showcased a little bit of the readiness that this boy had. He didn't know exactly what he was going into. He was kind of blind, but he prepared beforehand as much as he could. And I think he was strong, he was quick, he was fast, he was trained. But at the same point, I think his preparation in this story, mental preparation, is that from the very beginning, he knew, and he had it in his mind, that I am going to be the one to end this tribute. I am going to be the one to end this cruel practice of killing of my people.
Mm-hmm.
And he had that set in his mind, and he was ready. He knew that's what he was going to do. And he went there with a mission.
Nice.
And I think a lot of times readiness is seeing the possibilities that are ahead of us and having a mission, and that mission might not even be spelled out exactly, but having at least the basis to be able to react in any situation and promote a positive outcome.
I love it.
Just a little bit of a Greek mythology story. We've been listening to this kids Greek mythology podcast with the kids in the car, talking
cool.
about all different kinds of stuff like this. It's really cool. This is actually one of the stories. Well, this is part of one of the stories in less detail, but that they talked about, and the kids really liked it. And there's a couple other stories about Theseus and just how awesome and prepared and ready he was in every situation. So thought he was a good example of preparedness and readiness.
That's awesome. So readiness can mean multiple different facets for your life, whether that's preparing for an upcoming battle against a Minotaur, or preparing a classroom of students, or preparing for a hurricane to come and knock out power, or preparing for your financial future by tucking away some money for retirement, or preparing for the next day by setting your clothes out in the morning. So I think this is absolutely a piece of my creed, and I think it's important to add it to your creed, to our listeners out there. And there's varying degrees of readiness. I don't think I'm not ready to go run a marathon right now, but some people are. And so I think that it depends on what you value, but this is a great attribute that can overlay other values that you have. to where, if you value being able to defend yourself and your family, then readiness is a part of that, and you need to be ready to do that. And so I encourage you to all apply this to your personal creeds, and thank you for building your creed with us. So let's go out there and let's build it together.
All right, let's do it.